Welcome back to Northeast Legends and Stories, where we dive deep into the rich tapestry of the Northeast's past, uncovering tales that have shaped its history and captured imaginations across generations. I'm your host, Mike D., and today we are going on the longest, strangest, most beautiful walk you will take all year. We are heading into the heart of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, a million-acre sandbox of pitch pine, cedar swamp, and sugar sand that has been quietly terrifying people since the Lenape first told stories about a winged creature born from a cursed birth in 1735. This is the land of the Jersey Devil's three-toed prints still found fresh after snowstorms, of the phantom headlights that pace Route 539 for miles, then vanish when you pull over, of the white stag that leads lost hunters in circles until they walk out of the woods with no memory of the last 3 days, of the blue hole so cold the water burns your skin, and the bottom has never been sounded, of the ghost pirates on the Mullica River, and the spectral ironworkers at Botstow, who still hammer red-hot bog ore at midnight. And somewhere in the middle of all that, on a forgotten crossroads that barely existed even when people lived there, sits Ong's Hat, a ghost town so small it makes other ghost towns feel overdressed, yet it became the seed crystal for one of the most influential myths of the digital age. This is the story of a place that started as a colonial tavern joke, became a 20th century ruin, got colonized by rogue scientists in the collective imagination, and then, deliberately, brilliantly, got weaponized by one man into one of the very first alternate reality games ever created, long before the phrase existed, long before the Blair Witch Project made anyone a dime, long before anyone knew you could make a living convincing strangers the world is not what it seems. We're going to walk this thing from the ground up, layer by layer, no shortcuts, no bullet points, no mercy. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly how a half-collapsed foundation in Burlington County accidentally predicted creepypasta, QAnon, TikTok rabbit holes, and the entire post-truth internet. You'll know why people still leave offerings in the woods, why Joseph Matheny sometimes sounds like he regrets inventing the monster that outgrew him, and why, on certain nights when the moon is new and the cicadas scream like dial-up modems, the Pine Barrens feel like the thinnest place on the East Coast. Let's start with the real, physical place, because every great myth needs dirt under its fingernails. Take Route 70 east out of the Philly suburbs, past the last Wawa, past the last traffic light, until the pavement narrows and the trees close in like they're trying to hide something. Hang a left onto Magnolia Road, a two-lane blacktop that turns to sugar sand the moment the county stops caring. Cell service dies with a whimper. GPS spins like a drunk compass. The air smells like hot pine needles, distant barbecue smoke from some unseen trailer, and that faint metallic tang you only get when the humidity is 100% and the ground is 90% iron oxide. After a few miles, the forest opens just enough for a clearing, a rusted historical marker leaning like it's tired, a couple of concrete foundations being slowly digested by greenbrier and poison ivy, a stone chimney collapsed into itself, bricks disappearing one by one into the sand, like the land is swallowing its own bones. That's Ong's Hat. Blink and you've driven past it. There is no there, and that is exactly the point. The name is pure South Jersey whimsy. Sometime in the mid-17th century, a local rake named Jacob Ong, Quaker by day, tavern owner by night, legendary dancer, legendary heartbreaker, got into a lover's quarrel at a country dance in a barn that probably doesn't exist anymore. His sweetheart stomped his brand new silk hat flat in front of God and everybody. Jacob, drunk on rage, rum, and colonial testosterone, grabbed the ruined hat, flung it high into the branches of an oak tree, and swore he'd never retrieve it. The hat hung there for decades, bleaching white in the sun, becoming the landmark for stagecoach drivers, charcoal burners, and cranberry pickers. Turn left at Ong's Hat, they'd say, and eventually the crossroads inherited the joke. By 1800, it had a tavern with a wide porch where fiddlers played on Saturday nights, a wheelwright who could fix anything with oak and iron, a tiny post office that ran out of the tavern keeper's kitchen window, and a population that peaked at maybe 30 souls, most of them bog iron workers, cranberry farmers, or moonshiners hiding stills deeper in the pines. Then the railroad went 20 miles north. Route 70 got paved a few miles north again, and by the 1940s, the roofs caved in. The wells filled with sand, and the forest took it back with the quiet patience of something that was never in a hurry. Fast forward to the late 1970s. The ruins are still there if you know where to look. A couple of cellar holes filling with pine needles, a stone chimney collapsed into itself like a tired sigh, bricks being slowly pulled underground by vines that look innocent until you try to walk through them. Teenagers park there to drink warm beer and scare each other with Jersey Devil stories. Hunters use it as a reference point on topo maps. Hikers occasionally stumble across it and take a selfie with the historical marker. And that should have been the end of Ong's Hat. Another charming Pine Barrens ghost town, like Calico, Friendship, Herman City, or Martha Furnace, quietly moldering while the devil gets all the postcards in the gift shops. But the Barrens have never been big on staying dead. The whispers started small, the way all the best Barren stories do. A hunter in 1978 swears he saw steady orange lights hovering over the trees near the old foundations. No sound, no flicker, just hanging there for 20 minutes like they were waiting for something. Then shooting straight up so fast they left after images on his retinas. A couple of Rutgers kids on a mushroom hunt in 1981 stumble across a clearing with a perfect circle of scorched sand and a stack of waterlogged notebooks full of equations that hurt their heads to read, pages ending mid-sentence as if the writer simply ceased to exist. A state trooper in 1983 pulls over a van full of long hairs at 3 a.m. on Magnolia Road. They're shaking, claim they just came back and don't know how to explain the last 4 days missing. And the van's odometer shows 400 miles it shouldn't have. By 1985, the rumor has solidified into a full-blown urban legend that spreads through truck stop diners, Princeton Physics Department happy hours, and the photocopied zines sold in the back rooms of New Brunswick occult shops. Somewhere back in the ruins of Ong's Hat, there used to be a commune of genius dropouts who figured out how to travel to parallel universes. The details vary depending on who's had one too many beers, but the core is always the same. In the 1930s, a group of rogue scientists, mystics, and ex-academics bought the land under the deliberately vague name Moorish Science Ashram, Inc. They were a mix of ex-Princeton physicists, tantric yogis, chaos magicians, black Muslim mystics, and disgraced Bell Labs engineers, led by a mysterious figure named Wali Fard, a name already carrying mythic weight from early Nation of Islam lore, and later by twin siblings Frank and Althea Dobbs, brilliant but unhinged researchers who had been laughed out of academia for claiming consciousness could be hacked like software. Their obsession was interdimensional travel. They built a device called the Egg, a sensory deprivation chamber the size of a small car, lined with black acoustic foam, floating in a tank of saline solution kept at exact body temperature, wired to biofeedback rigs, early EEG machines, and custom analog computers running fractal algorithms based on chaos theory, tantric kundalini maps, and something they called cognitive chaos. The idea was that if you push the human nervous system far enough into non-linear states through prolonged sensory deprivation, rhythmic breathing, fasting, carefully timed psychedelics, and group sex magic rituals that lasted hours, you could literally shift your consciousness sideways into a parallel timeline where history branched differently. The stories people told were insane, specific, and delivered with the kind of conviction that makes you lean in even when your brain is screaming bullshit. One test subject vanished for 8 days and came back with a perfect suntan in February, babbling about a world where the Cuban Missile Crisis went hot, and Florida is a glowing crater you can see from orbit. Another returned clutching a fistful of leaves that botanists at Rutgers couldn't identify, and a Polaroid of the Manhattan skyline with an extra impossible tower that looked like it was made of light. Some never came back at all, their sleeping bags found cold and empty, the egg's lid still sealed from the inside. Orange plasma orbs were seen hovering silently over the bogs at night, steady as airport beacons, then shooting straight up so fast they left ozone in the air. Hikers found scorched circles of sand, surrounded by notebooks full of equations written in frantic handwriting, pages ending mid-sentence as if the writer simply ceased to exist between one pen stroke and the next. By the early 80s, the legend claimed the feds raided the place at dawn. Unmarked black helicopters, men in moonsuits, flatbed trucks, hauling away equipment under olive-drab canvas tarps, while troopers blocked every sand road for 10 miles. The ashram was bulldozed, the land salted or cursed, and anyone who goes looking too hard disappears, or goes mad, or both. That was the myth as it existed by 1988. Pure Pine Barrens Gothic. Equal parts X-Files, Lovecraft, and Fortean Times. Perfectly timed for the coming explosion of paranormal pop culture. Except almost none of it grew organically. The architect was a single human being. Joseph Matheny, artist, hacker, theater kid, and one of the most devious creative minds of the pre-web era. Matheny, a California transplant with a background in multimedia art and a love of situationist pranks, stumbled across the real ghost town in 1987 while on a road trip with friends looking for Jersey Devil sightings. He thought the name was the funniest thing he'd ever heard, and the isolation absolutely perfect. So he decided to build a myth from the ground up, brick by fictional brick, in the most labor-intensive way possible. Starting in 1988, he began a slow, meticulous campaign of controlled chaos that lasted over a decade. Anonymous manila envelopes mailed to occult bookstores in Manhattan, Philadelphia, Boston, and Baltimore. Inside, photocopied leaked documents titled Incunabula Papers or Ong's Hat, Gateway to the Dimensions. Fake scientific abstracts typed on an old IBM Selectric with deliberate smudges, grainy photos of the ashram. Actually abandoned hunting cabins Matheny found a mile away and photographed at dusk. Hand-drawn schematics of the egg complete with wiring diagrams that looked just plausible enough to hurt your brain. Interviews with Dr. Althea Dobbs that read like a cross between Timothy Leary and Nikola Tesla on a 3-day mushroom bender. He set up 800 numbers with pre-recorded messages and character voices. P.O. boxes in multiple states that would forward you the next clue if you sent a self-addressed stamped envelope and $1 for photocopying costs. Even staged midnight meetups in the actual ruins where actors in robes and hoodies handed out more pamphlets, whispered cryptic warnings, and melted back into the pines before you could ask a second question. This wasn't a hoax in the fake Bigfoot photo sense. It was participatory fiction, immersive theater, a choose-your-own-reality puzzle spread across physical mail, fax machines, early BBS systems, library microfiche, payphones, and answering machines. Matheny called it a conspiracy that invites you to become part of it. Players didn't know where the story stopped and reality began. Some reverse-engineered the science and tried to build their own eggs in basements from old waterbeds, EEG kits bought at government surplus auctions, and Commodore 64s running custom BASIC programs. Others drove to the real Ong's Hat at 3 a.m. with flashlights, Geiger counters, bags of salt, and cassette recorders hoping to capture EVPs. A few claimed genuine visions, time slips, or encounters with guardians who warned them to leave and never come back. Matheny kept feeding the fire for over a decade, releasing new documents, fake books, even a limited-run CD-ROM in 1999 that felt like a virus for your imagination, complete with hidden folders, scrambled audio of chanting, and executable files that did nothing but display a single line of text. You weren't supposed to find this. By the time the web went mainstream, Ong's Hat had become patient zero for the modern alternate reality game. The Beast for AI Artificial Intelligence in 2001, I Love Bees for Halo 2, the entire genre of this might be real marketing. They all owe royalties to a sandy clearing in Burlington County. The Blair Witch Project borrowed the playbook wholesale and made hundreds of millions doing it. Cicada 301 studied it like scripture. Modern horror ARGs like Local 58, the Mandela Catalog, Petscop, the Sun Vanished Twitter Project, even the entire Backrooms mythos, they are all direct spiritual grandchildren. Matheny started coming clean in interviews around 2002, publishing Ong's Hat, the beginning, and admitting it was art, not fact. But he left just enough gray area that even today you'll find forums where people swear parts of it are true, citing declassified CIA gateway process. Documents from the Monroe Institute, the actual 1983 Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process, report that talks about hemispheric synchronization and out-of-body experiences, or anomalies on 1950s topographic maps as proof the government stole the tech and buried it at Fort Dix or the Warren Grove Gunnery Range. The cultural fallout is still rippling outward like rings in a pond someone keeps throwing boulders into. It's a perfect time capsule of that brief, paranoid window between the end of the Cold War and 9/11, when quantum physics, psychedelics, conspiracy culture, and the first flickers of the internet collided in basements, zine shops, and 28.8K modems. It predicted the post-truth internet with terrifying accuracy. How a well-placed PDF, a lonely payphone, and a grainy photo can feel more real than the evening news. In a lot of ways, it's the missing link between analog folklore and creepypasta, between sitting around a campfire scaring your friends with Jersey Devil stories and doom-scrolling ER/glitch underscore in the Matrix at 3 a.m. Wondering if you're the only one who remembers the Berenstein Bears. Yet there's a quieter, almost tender side to the legacy that gets overlooked amid all the conspiracy noise. For 35 years, thousands of people have made pilgrimages to the real clearing on Magnolia Road. They leave quartz crystals, handwritten letters folded into tiny origami eggs, Polaroids of themselves holding signs that say, "I was here, did I make it?" Little wooden eggs nailed to cedar trees like rosaries, candles burned down to puddles of wax, the occasional six-pack as an offering to whatever might be listening. There are Ong's Hat playlists on Spotify, dark ambient tracks recorded in the ruins at 4 a.m., with field recordings of wind and distant dogs. Craft beer from Forgotten Boardwalk Brewing called Egg Lager, with a label that shows the clearing at twilight. A short film festival in Philly that screens nothing but Ong's hat-inspired pieces. Even a board game where you play rival chaos magicians trying to open the portal first and sabotage everyone else. The New Jersey Pine Barrens Folklore Center sells Ong's Hat t-shirts right next to their Jersey Devil hoodies, and I Survived Route 539 stickers. It has become a modern liminal shrine, a place where the veil feels thin, not because of physics, but because enough dreamers over 3.5 decades have agreed that it is. And maybe that's the deepest, most beautiful, and most terrifying truth of Ong's Hat. Joseph Matheny set out to build a hoax about a machine that could take you to another world. And instead, he accidentally proved that the most powerful portal was always collective belief. The egg was never metal and wires and black foam and saline solution. It was us, the readers, the seekers, the ones who still drive out to a sandy clearing at dusk, turn off the headlights, roll the windows down, and wait for the pines to whisper back. So next time you're cruising Route 70 with the windows down and the cicadas screaming like dial-up modems trying to connect to 1996, watch for that little green sign that says Magnolia Road. Take the turn. When the pavement ends and the sugar sand begins, kill the engine for a minute. Close your eyes. Listen. You won't see orange plasma orbs or hear Sanskrit chants drifting on the wind, probably, but you might feel it. That little electric tug at the edge of perception. The sense that somewhere in some other version of these exact woods the experiment never stopped. The egg is still humming, and the door is still cracked open, just enough for one more traveler. Thanks for listening to Northeast Legends and Stories. If this one left you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering which timeline you actually ordered pizza in last night, do me a favor. Leave a review, share the episode, and maybe, just maybe, take a drive down Magnolia Road. Bring a friend, bring a flashlight, bring a six-pack and a sharp knife. For the Greenbrier, not the Guardians. And whatever you do, don't look back until you're on pavement again. See you next time, somewhere deep in the weird, wonderful Northeast. Or maybe the one next door.